All right, thank you so much, Micah. And hello to everybody. Nice to meet you all. So here's the rough agenda we have for today. First, we want to talk about how Copilot for Security can empower teams to do better in their day-to-day tasks. Some of the experiences and lessons we've learned with our Copilot private preview. And we want to also talk about a little bit how Copilot can help empower SecOps and how that integration would work in our view. We also want to talk about our recommended engagement activities and finally some of the offerings we have available for you guys to start thinking about how to utilize and optimize your Copilot experience. So if we go to the next slide here, please. So first, I'd like to talk about uh, how Copilot can empower SecOps teams. So here at Synergy, we've been thinking a lot about how organizations should approach and think about Copilot for Security. And we think that one of the most important aspects of Copilot for Security is its ability to empower security teams and your teams as a whole. So we're enhancing here your team's capabilities and even streamlining some of that organizational processes. And to that end, we'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about this first as well. So if we go to the next slide. So we think that one of the biggest takeaways in our Copilot for Security path is that Copilot can go beyond just answering questions, right? So this is not just another AI chatbot where you're going to just submit questions and get answers back. Sure, there's that component, but Copilot can go far beyond that. And we really believe that Copilot can transform the security operations for an organization. So some of those capabilities, of course, I'm sure most of you already know, the summarization capabilities that can give you summaries of details about what's going on in your organization's security environment. We also think that Copilot can help organizations develop processes and procedures. You can leverage Copilot to help your organization standardize processes and those procedures. And we think that implementing Copilot in an organization should consider what are the current processes and procedures that organization is taking and really make them think on how a solution like Copilot for Security can be adopted and can be integrated with the organization's workflow. So for example, think of how implementing prompt books for certain scenarios can help organizations document, but also standardize some of those procedures and tasks. We also have all of the policy and compliance capabilities. So this is same thing with the policies and compliance. Copilot here can help you integrate your organization's knowledge to really help you enforce and understand your organization's policies and compliance standards for your analysts and for your security teams. You know, having all that repository of knowledge that's specific to organizations can really help you enforce those policies and compliance in your day-to-day. So if we go to the next slide, please. So Copilot can also help you with advanced automation, right? So with generative AI, we can unlock additional automation workflows that can help us streamline and optimize those processes. So this is just going above of the tools that we currently have for automation. We can use that generative AI capabilities to really go beyond what's currently possible with our conventional tools. Copilot can also help upskilling our teams. Copilot can assist team members to complete complex tasks in what they probably couldn't do before, or maybe they weren't experienced in doing those complex tasks, but Copilot can really help them enhance those capabilities and that knowledge to leverage all of those functionalities. And then finally, we also have the augmented decision-making component. And here we like to think of Copilot as a way to provide that second set of eyes in the decision-making analysis to really empower teams to make less mistakes and then help them or empower them to make better decisions. And so if we go to the next slide, I'd like to talk about a little bit about our Copilot experience and how that went for us. So talking about our journey with Copilot for Security during our private preview, we were one of the fortunate 12 partners that made it into the initial Copilot for Security private preview. And during that time, we have seen Copilot's capabilities improve very rapidly right up until the GA release back in April. And we have been collaborating also with Microsoft to give them feedback, and we have been tightly involved in the process of requesting new features and then feedback to improve the product. We're really excited for what's next with Copilot for Security. As we already know, this is a new technology, just came up a few months ago, but even so, we've seen a lot of progress. We've seen a lot of new integrations, a lot of new plugins, and we're really excited to what's to come next. During our journey, we have learned some important lessons along the way, and we'd like to share some of those lessons and best practices that we found over those months. Some of the key takeaways in terms of best practices for Copilot for Security is for you to enable and configure those additional data sources. We all know Copilot for Security relies heavily on the information you already have in your tenant or in your organization. So we think it's really important that organizations that are thinking of implementing Copilot for Security can assess their level of maturity in their implementation of the security tools, the security stack provided with Microsoft, and think about how we can leverage that exists in Microsoft Security Suite to the fullest, right? So this is one of the most important aspects to the quality of the answers to your prompts. If you don't have the data or if that data is incomplete, you will then find a very limited experience. So it's very important to think about what's the best approach in implementing Copilot for Security and how you can leverage all of those investments that you've already made. The second takeaway is to make sure that we're also leveraging your third-party tools or platforms with Copilot for Security. As we all know, organizations today commonly use different vendors to fulfill their security needs. So it's really important to leverage that information with Copilot for Security so we can gain that whole picture around your security context. So the output is only going to be as good as the input, and the more plugins you use to contextually enrich your complex investigations, the better it's going to go for you. We've also seen how Copilot for Security can really empower your teams around creating good prompts, right? Effective prompts. So this is a very important aspect when you're interacting with large language models like Copilot. So really getting good at creating effective prompts will heavily determine the quality of the responses that you're going to get back from Copilot, right? So this will also help you leverage those Copilot's capabilities to the fullest. So we really think it's important that security teams, organizations think about how to improve their prompting, how to get better at prompting, and how to upskill your security teams or your teams to get better at this really foundational skill that we think is going to get far more important in the future, right? So we also want to think about how to make use of those knowledge bases to add additional context to the organization. So knowledge bases can really help you add valuable insights like policies and procedures specific to your organization. And this is going to then provide Copilot with that additional context to be ever more effective at understanding your environment and then giving you better answers to your prompts as you go along. So if we go to the next slide, we've also seen the importance of automation. Right? So how can you leverage all of those capabilities that Copilot for Security has in a way that you can automate processes and you can make your teams far more effective? So there are several automation options, of course. One would be leveraging prompt books, which is a pretty common use case for Copilot for Security. The idea here is that you have known scenarios, you have known procedures in your organizations, and you really want to think about how you can standardize, how can you streamline those procedures by leveraging Copilot prompt books to help you aid in your investigations and your day-to-day tasks, right? So we can also use some native integrations with Azure Logic Apps or even additional help with implementing those workflows. And we also have the ability to interact with Copilot's APIs. So if you're, for some reason, are not keen on using Azure Logic Apps, you can also use the REST APIs that Copilot for Security has available. So there's a lot of really cool automation use cases for this. Like I mentioned, generative AI is going to help you unlock some of those advanced workflows. So for example, remediation, enrichment of incidents, creating business workflows that's specific to your security teams, logs transfer, and then those logic apps that can even call Azure functions for some advanced capabilities. So if we go into our next slide here. So when we think about Copilot for security, we're really thinking about what is that contrast between a traditional SecOps and a Copilot powered SecOps, right? So if we compare traditional SecOps with a Copilot empowered SecOps, we really can see some of the advantages that Copilot is going to bring. So in a traditional setup, we may have a lack of expertise on those existing solutions. We may have analysts that are not really proficient in navigating the different UIs and navigating the different consoles that we have available for them. There's also a lack of existing guidelines or playbooks for standardizing alert and incident handling, right? A lot of organizations may not even have an incident response plan set in place. And so here's where we think Copilot can really help them get started on that journey. And there's also limitations on sharing investigations between team members, right? There may be a lack of documentation, there may be a lack of procedures where they can effectively collaborate with each other and share those findings and share those investigations. And there's also manual processes that can lead to a lower response time, right? So how many times an analyst can spend, analyzing an incident, thinking on those alerts, correlating those alerts, thinking on how to look for that additional information that is going to give them context surrounding that investigation. And then we also see that teams oftentimes struggle to keep up with the volume of data and alerts that are coming into their SOCs, into their security consoles. And we also see a lack of security automation, right? Many organizations may not be leveraging that full capability that these consoles and these tools are providing for them to really automate some of those processes. And there's also a high rate of false positives that can really lead to that alert fatigue that many security teams are going to experience. But with a Copilot Power SecOps team, we really think that we can tackle some of those issues, right? So Copilot, for example, can help you function with a natural language interface to obtain and interact with the data that you really need. So you can think of it as an additional interface where analysts can use natural language to really interact and experience all of those features and all of those information that is coming from those security consoles. And then Copilot for Security can also help your teams leverage well-established procedures and to standardize incident handling through Chromebooks, right? So this is the example I gave a slide ago, where if you think about how to implement and how to couple Copilot for Security with your team, you're really thinking about how Copilot for Security can come in and help you enhance those processes and help you document those procedures in your organization. And then Copilot can also easily allow you to share your investigation results with other team members. So with just a click of a button, you can share your investigation results and everyone is going to be on the same page. AI or Gen AI in this case can really help you automate responses. So this is going to also lead you to faster reaction times. And AI can process large volumes of data and help you prioritize alerts, improving your scalability in your SecOps operations. You can also leverage advanced AI automations with Copilot for Security, like I mentioned, to just go beyond those traditional automation capabilities. And then finally, Copilot can help you reduce false positives by learning from past data and help you improve your detection rules over time. So those are kind of the framework we're thinking about when thinking about Copilot. And then I'd like you also to show you some of those examples and areas that we've been thinking about in Chromebooks as well. So Felipe, take it away. Sorry, Felipe, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So let me start over. Thank you. Hello, everyone. And tying into what Juan was saying, our journey with Copilot for Security and the best practice and the things that we've learned is focusing on Copilot on how to empower our SecOps team and modernizing that journey. And we have come up with some example scenarios or some base scenarios that we can and then move and convert them into prompt books for streamlining this incident investigation or incident response, or managing alerts or false positives, or phishing email notifications, and so on. So what we've come up is a set of prompts that will give you a standardized procedure for incident investigation across your team, and being able to whether detect, for example, in an incident that has a script, a malicious script in it, thinking about who's working on at that time on your organizations, if it's a tier one employee, or if it's late in the night, or early in the morning, and it's that sole person alone, how can I effectively, not have to wait a few hours or a few days until that person completes an incident investigation regarding a script analysis, and how do I go beyond those boundaries of I don't have the expertise to do a script analysis line by line to understand what it's doing. So kind of like demolishing all those roadblocks and fulfilling an incident investigation in a matter of minutes, where if you take a look at the prompts and the time that it takes Copilot to go through a script analysis and all the different several prompts to follow until we get to a summarized incident response to provide to our team, to provide to management. And if we take in the human factor first, that might take, in the best case scenario, a few hours a day to complete that particular incident investigation before it lands on a decision making about what are we going to do with this particular incident or this particular script. Whereas with Copilot, we're just talking about a matter of minutes. That's one of the key advantages with having these solutions or scenarios well thought of and tailored to your organization, so that we effectively empower you to defend at machine speed, right? And not just wait days or months in order to effectively defend against a potential threat. In the event of phishing email investigation, is one of the examples that we work with automation with the Logic app as well. For example, we take advantage of Copilot in the Logic app to do some triage, to do some email investigation, IOCs, and then from all of these prompts that we develop for phishing investigation, at the end we tell Copilot, okay, based on all your findings, give me a score from 0 to 100. And then we say if the score is, for example, higher than 50, then we are going to consider this as a phishing email, generate an incident, and notify the security team, or the people that are in charge of continuing that investigation. And if not, if it's lower than 50, then just send an email to the team in charge of this, just saying that there was an investigation ongoing. And the beauty of that is that when the email arrives, you'll have the session ID or the session link, so that anyone in your team opening that email, or in charge of that phishing email inbox, for example, is going to be able to see and go and take a look in Copilot, all the different prompts and all the different findings, to see that why Copilot reached that particular scenario. So that's just to name a few. But we also have, I mentioned reverse engineering, threat hunting, security reporting. Let me move to the other slide real quick. Investigation of DLP alerts. So now we're focusing more a bit on the compliance sides, insider risk management, device administration, e-discovery investigations, identity management, and compliance. So what is the idea behind us exploring all these scenarios in prompt books? So like I mentioned before, and in our next slide, we're going to mention the activities or the journey that we are recommending, that we've seen throughout our engagement with Copilot for Security and different customers, our recommendations on the flow of how to tackle Copilot for Security onboarding, implementation, development. So the idea with this is to make everyone's lives easier, and throughout our journey, we will also be helping you, if for after we have implemented some of these prompt books in your environment, we sit down with you and kind of fine tune those elements in case that there is a prompt that you might not find as useful within the prompt book, or a prompt that you would like to add to that prompt book. So kind of like tweaking it to your our organization needs. But the idea is that we can give you, a set of predefined scenarios and prompt books that you can work with, and kind of like standardize all these investigations from the get-go. Of course, there are going to be some advanced scenarios where prompt books, the predefined prompt books cannot tackle, but at least it gives a starting point on your incident investigation and your security standpoint. So this is a list of activities that we have kind of like packaged in a way in our recommendation in the journey with Copilot for security. So the first task is readiness. So readiness is reviewing what is your current usage of the Microsoft security solutions and how they can integrate with Copilot for security. Also in this particular first readiness stage, defining the role-based access controls for Copilot and Copilot for security, and kind of like from a high-level standpoint at this point, give a rough estimation on how many SEUs or computational units will Copilot for security use in your environment. This is at this point, at this stage, kind of like a very early stage, but we can give an estimation. And then the adoption is getting familiar with the different phase features as standalone or embedded experiences, sessions to understand the security and escalation process of your organization, and assess and determine how Copilot for security can enhance and optimize all this current process around your personas, around your roles, and around your established procedures. So here we kind of like have a architectural design session around your process and procedures and how can we better adapt our scenarios and our prompt books to your organization. In the implementation phase, it would be discussing, analyzing, and constructing these use case scenarios tailored to your organization, implementing the prompt books based on the use case scenarios and procedures that we have previously talked about in the adoption phase, and implementing the automation workflows, Azure Logic Apps, Azure Functions, APIs. And then extensibility is where we integrate these relevant knowledge bases that Juan was mentioning before to enrich prompt context around the company itself and policies and procedures, but also developing potential plugins, for specific use cases and additional integration. So going above and beyond the plugins that are offered for Microsoft Copilot for security out of the box, doing a custom or developing a plugin for your organization needs. And then in the stabilization phase is going back to the prompts and fine-tuning those prompts, fine-tuning those automation workflows, making sure we monitor the consumption of SEUs that Copilot would use in the environment, and finding potential ways that we can optimize that SEU consumption. So it's kind of like the journey that we have seen as kind of like the best approach to go into a project for Copilot for security. And this is just some examples of what of the prompt books that you saw before on SEU usage. There's an average that we can calculate of the prompt books that are going to use, and we can help your organization plan how many of these you're going to need on at least on a regular day-to-day basis, or on the high peaks of your organization's usage for Copilot for security. But I don't want to linger too much in this slide. This one is kind of like the journey of optimizing that SEU consumption. So having a separate subscription to monitor SEU consumption, limiting the access to a subscription so that we have a specified location just to monitor the consumption, create budget alerts to monitor potential increase, optimizing prompts to be more precise and adequate to the organization. So that's kind of like at the end of our journey, right, that I was mentioning before. limit access to Copilot for security, and that is because we need to keep in mind that this is a great tool, state-of-the-art technology, but this is not just that chat GPT that you can go and ask every single question that you might think of. We are empowering, harnessing the power of the cloud and harnessing the power of all your security tools. So we don't want to grant access to every single person in the organization. That would be a disaster. And take advantage of the SEU monitoring feature, reviewing the usage, the consumption, and this is all a cycle, right? We will talk a little bit about the journey together that we can have as an MSSP with you in our Copilot for Security journey as well in a few minutes. So talking a little bit about and circling back to closing the circle to what Juan was saying. So the benefits that Copilot for Security provide to us are, augmenting this human experience. It's empowering us to work at machine speed to break down the barriers of lack of knowledge, lack of expertise, being able to have a conversation in natural language without having those technical wordings in any other scenario, and the guided responses as well that Copilot for Security provides will help us close all that gaps in some of the trainings scenarios. And with the scalability, collaboration, and reporting, we have adaptive relocation of analysts if someone has his shift is ending and another one starting, or if someone's in vacation and we need to continue that investigation. With Copilot for Security, makes it a lot easier just by sharing the session that person was doing at that particular time, and we can see what that investigation was about and continue from there. Um, and streamlining the process and data is, I think, one of the best way and focuses that we can give to Copilot for Security. Adapting these prompt books to your organizations, to your processes, to your needs, and being able to help you streamline all these processes and procedures and increase the speed and efficiency. In average, it would take us a day, 2 days, 3 days to go through an incident, a proper incident, and not something just high level that we can quickly dismiss as a false positive or a true positive. But the ones that really take our time in investigation, we can increase that speed and efficiency dramatically and drastically to just a matter of minutes with Copilot for Security. We are going to show you what are our security offerings or that we have available for you. And I believe, Micah, you're going to help us in this particular section.
Yeah, sure. So here we've provided a quick list of some of the different consulting offerings that we're helping customers walk through. Architecture, design sessions, hands-on labs, proof of concept to help folks get their feet wet, so to speak, and then on into the deployment. In the interest of time, I'll turn it over to Christian to talk about how we're using Copilot for security from a managed services perspective.
Absolutely. And again, apologize for my voice, guys, but I really wanted to thank you for the opportunity of speaking about this journey. Some organizations might be interested using some capabilities and validate those in an isolated environment. Some others would like to potentially use solution in prod directly. That's what we would recommend. So, but more importantly, how this is handled from the MSSP lenses. If we move a few clicks more to the next slide, Felipe, would be great. So here you see that CFS is embedded into all the processes that we have as a managed service. Uh, One aspect that we come and tell customer first and foremost, it is that this is optimizing, as the team presented earlier, the process. It is not replacing anybody. It's actually making everybody more efficient and the organization in terms of risk and time management more efficient to reduce ransomware attack, reacting and being able to get answers in minutes rather than hours. It can make a big difference. So the organization has to have some changes, and that's what we have on the next slide, kind of like reflecting the activities that we have at the high level on managed services. Fun enough that I have found in different places here in the Americas, they call it differently. Sometimes they say that this is part of the SOC. Sometimes they say this is part of the MSSP. But at the end of the day, even internal people, we don't think that CFS, first and foremost, is just for the MSSP. The MSSP can have, if we are operating customer, and we've been doing that for 7 years already, and now with CFS, that it is making impact, a significant impact in a positive manner, of course, across all these different areas. Because we can get that information. We saw that before with the topic that the team presented. Now, let us talk on what are the specific key aspects that should be considered on the next slide, please, related to the implementation of these components. The first one is for existing customers where we are bringing CFS into the mix. It might take us between 2 to 4 weeks to get CFS fully embedded into the process. And to be very honest, technically speaking, enabling the technology might take, you know, just a few hours, and the next day we might be just playing with prompts and all that. But it is not just enough to turn the technology on there. We're seeing a trend out there where many people are just, uh, as some of my team members said, letting people go and ask the prompt something rather than optimizing and provide a prescriptive guidance on how to optimize the processes from regular SecOp to modern SecOp using CFS. Again, CFS is not just for ad hoc or on-demand questions that are totally valid. If there is not a change, even at the documentation level, we have many regulatory required customers with many regulatory and compliance requirements that everybody who's operating them, the documentation should be aligned. And that's what it might take this amount of time, even on an existing customer, because this is really changing the way how people work in a positive way. And it is not just having the prompt books, but making sure that whoever joins tier one, tier two might be able to step up on this and might have the corresponding guidance. Otherwise, we'll have into the same problem where some people know how to use technology, um, just as the break the glass situation, instead of like do it on as required with prescriptive processes that has been in place. And that to me, honestly, is one of the more important parts that has to be considered above and beyond. Can you do one more click? Um, on the left side, still, we see these key considerations related to continuous improvement. I will be speaking about that next. Now, what if you haven't worked with your MSSP on enabling this? Or if you might be approaching synergy, this is what we will be proposing to you. And it is indeed defining what are those prompt books and how the alignment will get within your organization. So it's not just the technology part. There is a change management aspect to make CFS really being part of a process and not just uh, another tool that people can use when they don't know how to analyze and script. Technically speaking, that is a fantastic feature. Well, how do we manage to make sure that anybody within the different tiers can go to the right prompt books without reinventing the wheel or asking an upper level on how to tackle a specific problem? So that's what we would be recommending, and especially if the customer doesn't have, on this particular case, some of the technologies on, we help them tuning, optimizing those in order that CFS can get the most of them. So as important as it is the platform, that CFS will be the prompt books, the specific workloads that are going to be connected with CFS should be optimized as well. And last but not least, Microsoft is always improving, innovating, and providing new capabilities. The MSSP contracts are 3 to 4 years typically. We encourage customers to talk to your MSSPs about these continuous improvements. Otherwise, you will be out of date of the amazing capabilities that CFS provides in a quarter, maybe. I know that we're running out of time, but I don't want to let this aspect not being taken as serious as it should be, as this might require being revisited to see how much changes were required on the Chromebooks, if there is any impact on the CUs, so you can get those going. I really appreciate the opportunity. I know that we're running out of time. Just wanted to thank you for the opportunity of talking to you. There is one aspect that we have left there with some offer that we wanted to provide to people attending the session, if you don't mind, which is a free hands-on lab for two companies who wanted to go deep into using CFS in Synergy's environment. So we wanted to offer for free. It's first come, first serve. The email address is on the slide previous to this one, Felipe. And then the email address is there. So I appreciate again one more time the opportunity, Microsoft team. And thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you so much, Christian, Micah, Juan, and Felipe. Amazing work that y'all are doing there at Synergy Advisors. Always impressed and always excited anytime that I can meet y'all in person and we can collaborate together. Looking forward to future innovations on the side. I am very excited to introduce our next MSSP coming in from Water. We have Alexander, we have Felipe, and a couple others, I believe, that are going to be joining this side. And without further ado, I see, Alexander, you are on. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton over to you. Go ahead.
Thank you, James. So I'm going to just say a couple of words and then I'll hand it over to Alexander. And first of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity for us to speak here. We're beyond thrilled to be part of this amazing community and share our own story, which to some degree is quite similar to what Synergy just told us, but we just didn't want to tell the same story all over again and really highlight how we approach it also from an internal perspective. Now, for those of you who don't know us yet, we are Water, and we are a Microsoft MSSP security services provider working extremely closely with Microsoft. Just last month, really, at RSA in San Francisco, we've been awarded with the prestigious MISA Award, which we're extremely proud of. And beyond that, we are part of many, many private previews. And one of those that we had the opportunity to work on for the last 7 months already, closely with James and the team, was, of course, the partner private preview for Copilot for Security. From a customer perspective, there's the early access program. For partners, there's the partner private preview. And bringing all of this together in our own learnings and all the things that we really look forward when it comes to this great innovative feature, we want to share our own story, just like I said. And for that, handing it over to Alex.
Thank you, Philip. I'm trying to share my screen. Please give me a quick thumbs up if you see my screen or
working.
You guys. Yeah, cool. Yeah, as Philip was saying earlier, we don't want to go through the prompt engineering and everything again because obviously, or for obvious reasons, let's put it that way, the product is more or less the same. So we quickly decided to rather maybe tell a little bit more about our journey on how we made our team ready for Copilot for Security, and also how and which process we went through to build the personas and use cases that you will see at a later point. From the products, I think it's more or less comparable to what you guys from Synergy were just saying. Really impressive slides. Kudos. That's amazing work, and I think people will take a lot from there. And I hope, for efficiency reasons, you guys don't mind to not go through the all product development again. So let's kick it off from here. Yes. I'm not a very religious person, but I was really inspired when Pope Francis, who was obviously the inventor of ChatGPT and Gen AI, was kicking off this new decade in technology. I'm just kidding. That's obviously a joke. But I think you all agree that the moment this picture was released, everybody knew that the technology that we're working on here is really kind of bringing a new decade, a new age in technology, and obviously even my mom, my dad, my grandparents understood that things are kind of changing, and this was also something that happened over the next couple of months, where the technology was picking up in new pictures, and everybody was kind of impressed how, for example, the Queen was kind of destroying Boris Johnson on the basketball court that you can see. That's one of my favorite pictures. And then what you're also seeing is that the speed on how, for example, ChatGPT was picking up a 1 million market usage in really short time period. I think we all understand that the product that we're also having with Copilot for Security is not the end yet, and this is what I would like your minds to be opened for the next couple of minutes, that we're not thinking of the technology how it's used today, but rather how it can be used in the future. Things that we can learn from ChatGPT, obviously, are things that we all, I think, agree, and there is a common sense what is working very well. Is everything with languages, and languages is also obviously including programming. So I think there are already kind of good bunch of studies and research papers that make clear that, for example, the programming part is really working well with Gen AI. So not only can it discover syntax errors or can even create code, it is kind of what Microsoft, I think, has decided to go with a very smart naming Copilot, something like a personal assistant that's helping to clear my tasks and accelerating the speed that I'm trying to solve my tasks with day by day. And language is something that is working super well already, which is good, but for the obvious reason of opening the mind of Gen AI being not only a supportive technology, but also a threat. Let's maybe for a second understand where we came from and keeping the language part and also the programming part in mind, how and what we need to protect against, and obviously our customers as MSSP partner. So before COVID, I think one of the main threats that we were kind of protecting ourselves against was ransomware later on that was called Emoted. And Emoted did something really new. It was polymorphic, which mainly means, I think you can see it here. Let me point the laser pointer here. You can see that the mutation engine was something that was kind of a new technology. What does that mean? The lateral movement, or the spreading in the victim's environment, was something that was really fast. It was really undetectable. It was something that was hard to protect against. And back in the days, we were already telling people that this is now the new era where we are moving from endpoint protection in a very classic way of signature-based and file-based to something that we called, or that we were telling people back then to be behavior-based. This was absolutely necessary because things like Emoted were destroying many customer environments or victims' environments, and we didn't have a protection mechanism with the classic AV, and needed some sort of a smart detection that was not only focusing on the detection of files, hashes, or any characterism, rather than the behavior of how ransomware is moving in the environment. To explain what I mean with challenges, back in the days, I held a presentation at Microsoft Ignite that I would like you to see. It was just a super simple demo. The video is a couple of years old already. You can see it from 2018. And back in the days, this was a very up-to-date and with all the protection mechanisms that were available Windows 10. That was even an insider ring, and was even having all the newest defenders enabled. And what I'm running here is just for the sake of explaining the threat, Mimikatz, which is obviously in an excluded folder. And just to show that this is a threat to the operating system, what you guys can see here is that I was able to exfiltrate the hash, the NTLM hash from that machine, which is a threat to the environment or the endpoint. If I would remove this file from my excluded folder, what I'm doing right here, every antivirus on earth would kind of go crazy, go bonkers, and tell, hey, there's something malicious going on in your machine. I have already removed it. It's not a threat anymore. Maybe I've put it in quarantine or even deleted it. So nothing surprising here. But back in the days, we explained that exactly this behavior of file-based detection, and for obvious reasons, Mimikatz was a file that was seen and also signature or IACs shared throughout every AV engine. For obvious reasons, we are now trying to avoid this circumstance or this detection mechanism. And just to show how easy that was in the past, and obviously it's also today, we will run SigThief, which was back in the days a Python script that changed the characteristic of the file, the Mimikatz file, and then added some reputation, for example, from system files, and created a new file that wasn't seen before. That's something that we're doing right now. One single command line, not much coding scripts, super easy. Unfortunately, this was something that was even years ago still super successful with also competitive EDR technologies because there were some obfuscation techniques included. But then later on, I think the majority of EDR technologies picked it up and it was not longer a threat. But I think to the people and all of our customers, it was clear that something like that can be a threat, and their standard AAV or standard endpoint protection is not helping them to protect against threats of that kind. Today, we're kind of in the same big change, and I was just for explanation reasons trying to make it super simple. Black Mamba is one of these threats. I mean, there are many out there. I was just explaining it as a ChatGPT powered polymorphic malware. And why am I explaining you this? The reason is because exactly this emoted case where the the polymorphic part has been a threat in the past is nowadays also a threat, and that is because of AI. And AI, with AI, I mean not only changing the basic characteristic of the file, but even with the agreement and the common sense that we were just building a couple of slides ago, the ability to change the language, and not only the language, but also each behavior. We are facing another major threat in our day-to-day work, which is that something like that could run against an environment in the moment, in the first moment, with a C# coded malware, and then in next second on a PowerShell based malware, for example. And also it could not only change the language of how it is built, but even it could, in addition to that, change the way on how it is moving. So even the top prepared EDR protection, like for example, a pure defender without AI, would fall into that technology as a victim. So we need AI technology, like for example, the capabilities that we're getting with Defender for Endpoint, and in addition, a technology that is in the Microsoft ecosystem, Copilot for Security, to protect our customers against threats of that kind, because even that is changing really, really quickly. So that's the reason why we're going out with this story and explaining also the majority of our folks that they can get it in 2 different flavors, which I think you all know, standalone and embedded. And one of the things that the colleagues earlier were also saying is obviously that prompt engineering is super relevant. Prompt engineering is not only relevant with the top people in your team. In the majority of cases, we even tell don't evaluate Copilot for Security with the way of going to your smartest and most experienced SOC analyst and tell him, hey, now let's try to do a POC on Copilot for Security. Let's rather focus on different categories that can help you clarify or even understand where the technology can help you over the next couple of months or weeks, which is something that we from Water try to do in personas. So I think you probably have also seen a slide that was just recently shared from Microsoft, where they were also characterizing the people in personas. This is something that pays off for us quite good, so that we not only talk about SOC analysts, but also talk about, for example, the CISO or identity expert, different people with different challenges that they have throughout the day. I want to share one persona with you, which is the CISO. And the CISO, in the majority of cases, has different challenges and tasks to take care. So there's an experience level. He has some responsibility, or she, products that are in place. And then we have to identify and assess the different risks with the different resources and technologies, and improve the incident response might be one of the KPIs that he is quoted against. And to simplify the regulatory and compliance, we need some support from Copilot for Security. So this is kind of a persona that we build with each of our customers, and try to then bring up prompts that can help this person to solve their day-to-day challenge in a better way. Let me show you one example, which is in that case reason threat in a threat intelligence technology. So we've built one of the prompt books. Use it here. One of the out-of-box prompt books here. Choose Microsoft Defender for threat intelligence. Look up the threat intelligence information. Prepare your response, and then get all the information that we need to share it with the rest of the executive management, or even the people in my team. In addition to that, we have built more cases, like, for example, investigation and response. So also, we're trying to bring up more ideas, because what we've learned also in the early preview was that people were asking us a lot, hey, what's a good prompt? How can I start with that? And this is something that we said, okay, let's, from the different cases that I was showing you earlier, let's just quickly go there. From the different categories, let's build the use cases and then go into these examples, and then also show some investigation. For example, this is one that I also like quite a lot. So you can see an incident summary, and then we go deeper into the triage. So how do you classify it? Is it a false positive, true positive, whatever? What's the investigation? How can I use it as a SOC analyst, contact, get a summary of how to reach out to the victim that was affected, and then even go deeper on, for example, the machine. So summarize different information that I have. Let me also understand, is that the first threat on that machine? Is it a threat that has been there? How vulnerable is that device to the overall threat landscape? How many applications maybe are unpatched? And then even look deeper on the file and understand, is that file something malicious? Is that something that probably is obfuscated malware, ransomware, whatever? And then even go deeper on, for example, the investigation within the user. So that's another case that I would like to show you. And then there's another one that I also like a lot in terms of email that is containing malicious URL. Case in a nutshell is more or less user received an email that is including malicious code. And here we're, for example, illustrating the embedded integration. Again, with us going through the guided response, and then with the information about the incident and the initial access, we then move on with the triage, which is obviously the same in every case, to the user contact information, and then go deeper on the information probably of the user that is affected. Another case, for example, could be threat hunting. So how is my team working? And obviously, something that we've agreed in the beginning was that especially the KQL or the building of code is something that works quite well. So that could also be something that I would like to do. So you can see here in the upper right corner that I say, hey, give me a KQL query for all emails that contain the URL with a specific maybe even obfuscated link, and then I get the information. Okay, this is malicious or not malicious. So stuff like that help our people to better understand how they can use Copilot for security in their day-to-day work. And this is something that obviously makes sense to do over a couple of weeks, like the folks earlier said as well. So we, in the majority of cases, start with a pretty simple workshop where we go through different prompts and then let the people experience the technology and its advantages over the next weeks. Something that we have seen as one of the partners that were quite early in the whole program is that there are some comparable experiences when it comes to usage. So we do see a very high spike of the usage Copilot for security in the first and also in the second month, but then it's going dramatically low. Why is that the case? In some cases, people do not see the advantage of the technology. They even forget that they have it, which is obviously not the embedded experience because that's just there, but the prompting experience. And here again, we need to do a lot of work on evangelizing how, I really like the slide where you were bringing up the efficiency and also the improvements and quality and also true positive, false negative, stuff like that detection. And for that, we do have two marketplace offerings where we also want to give people a glimpse of what are we doing. And then in addition to that, have a co-designed strategy where we really go deeper on within an 80-day or 26 days, a full Copilot workshop and experience to really understand and really get the different personas, the different use cases, and the ones that are really mapped to the environment and also the customers' challenges that we had really positive feedback on. So I'm really encouraging to have a look into that. Maybe one last slide, give you a better understanding of how we decided to become a Copilot for security, a security Copilot ninja. We started with the basics. That's what I was saying earlier. Explain the personas that we have, that we bring into the table. Explain a little bit about how to prompt, do some hands-on, some Q&A, and then it's some self-practice over the next couple of weeks where people have their time and can decide to go and move in their speed with the prompts that we have kind of pre-prepared. And then a couple of weeks later, we do a Security Copilot Advanced session, maybe more than that, more than one, maybe for different personas. So if they have, in the majority of cases, we're between 4 to 6 personas. We do a advanced session for each persona, and then let them again work on their different prompts and also on maybe some ideas of how they can bring it into their workflows, and then continue with a second advanced session that's 2 hours where we bring in new prompt experience and also try to squeeze into their day-to-day work and workflow and really accelerate that as much as we can with the experience that we, from water perspective, have gained over the last couple of months. Maybe one last thing before we close our session. I said it earlier that the technology that we are having right now might be the worst Gen AI solution that we have. So it is continuously improving over the next couple of months and years. So just imagine that it is not this product that you're evaluating right now, which is already really good, but really think of the bigger picture and out of the borders that maybe the technology has today about cases where you really bring your main challenges, like for example the process optimization in terms of how do your analysts go through the different workflows day by day and night, and really get that going as a conversation internally. And I think Microsoft is really pushy. We all understand and really investing a lot into that technology. And you will see that once you open your minds in terms of what the technology can do, the technology will follow with all the capabilities that you need. And this is what we have learned also being a partner of the very early private preview. Yeah, thank you so much for your attention. I hope this somehow added to be a full picture and not repeat majority of stuff that we have heard in the first session. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much. James did have to drop, so I'm sure he would be thrilled to see so many folks still on, listening through the entire presentation. Thank you so much to the water team and the Synergy team that had presented today, and also thank you for everyone who joined the call to listen to hear more about the MSSPs and best practices sharing and such like that. So as Alex had mentioned, if you have any questions for them, feel free to drop them in chat, or if you want to raise your hand, come off mute, feel free to do that as well. We'll stick around for a couple more minutes here in case anybody does have any questions or feedback, comments, anything they'd like to share. I did notice that Poonam also dropped in the chat window a link to the post-call survey. So if you could please take just a few minutes to fill that out, that would be great. Okay, and I see a hand up here for Lavanya. Lavanya, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. That was very informative. So, I mean, what are the common typical hesitations you're seeing from customers with adoption of AI? Or, I mean, are customers eager to adopt CFS, or are you hearing concerns from them with the adoption of AI in their SOC?
I can go first if you want. So I think there is a general openness for everything Gen AI or AI these days. So people are really willing to move into the technology and understand how they can really, take the most out of it. From a operations perspective, and also, focusing maybe for a very minute on the SOC analyst perspective, there are still some challenges. For example, that the technology is not, supporting each case, and also that the list of predefined prompt books is not so extensive yet. So that's what we are hearing from our customers and partners.
Yeah, and just let me chime in on that. That is why exactly we have focused on this perspective of saying now's the time to get ready for Copilot for Security. And that is why that is the name of our product that we've shown you. It's actually available in the commercial marketplace under that very name. Get ready for Copilot for Security, because now is the time to get everything in line and be ready. And we want to support you on that journey. And we really see that there is a huge demand, but there are still some things to do.
Are you seeing any differences based off of the region in the adoption of AI? Like, customers in US and Americas versus customers in Europe or EMEA? Or do you see equal adoption across your customers if your customers are global?
So we are based in Germany, which is the end boss for data privacy. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah.
And there is some sort of a normal, or at least it feels normal to us, a normal, kind of pushback behavior that people do have when bringing information into the cloud still. So yeah, I mean, I think the US and also countries outside of Europe are more open to the technology, but I would generally speaking say the general interest into the technology is still really heavy. So trying or doing a POC of the technology is on everybody's roadmap.
Thank you.
Sure.
I can speak a little bit towards that interest in the Americas region. So we are mainly focused in the American continent, and we do see, especially from North America, a general or a bigger interest or a bigger eager starting point, I would say, for Copilot for Security and the other Copilots in Latin America and South America. The interest is there, but there are much smaller companies throughout that region than in North America, so that also faces challenges in terms of hands and people who can help implement or leverage and get this to a finish line. But the interest is also there, but we only have more challenges, and of course we're helping along the way.